If you're going to federal prison, you're really going to want to work toward getting the best possible outcome at every stage of the journey. That doesn't only mean getting out at the soonest possible time. It means making sure that your journey through prison has the minimal amount of stress and complications, not only for you, but also for your family. And in order to get that result or to work toward that result, you might want to listen to that or learn or Google that old story that the Wall Street Journal published. There's a very famous Wall Street Journal advertisement that talks about two different people who got two different outcomes. I don't really remember the entire story, but I'm going to try and summarize it. Like Bob and Jim. Bob and Jim both went to the same colleges. They lived in the same town, and they went to a reunion and found out that they'd both worked for the same company for 25 years. They came from similar backgrounds, had similar education, and yet working in the same company. But at the end of the journey, after 25 years, one was the CEO and one was the maintenance supervisor. What was the difference? Well, the difference is one of them prepared really well. And in the Wall Street Journal's case, they talk about really preparing well for the career by reading the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to tell you, you can prepare to be the CEO of your life and get through prison in the best possible way if you educate yourself and learn everything there is to know. I would highly recommend against hiring anybody who fancies himself a prison consultant, especially one who's only served time in one minimum security camp or two minimum security camps, a minimal amount of time, and more importantly, didn't accomplish anything of substance while he was there, except stand up for count and wait for calendar pages to turn. You are the CEO of your life, and you have the ability to navigate this journey with your dignity intact. And you have the ability to create opportunities that will help you prosper, not only through prison, help you get out at the soonest possible time, and help you build a life of meaning and relevance and dignity once you get out. My name is Michael Santos. I am the founder of Prison Professors. We're a nonprofit where we give away everything for free. In fact, I always give 3 promises. Never going to lie to you. I am never going to ask you to do anything I didn't do. And 3, I am never going to ask anybody to pay me a penny. They could use all the resources at Prison Professors for free because I truly believe that you should be learning how to architect your strategy to come home fast and come home with your dignity intact and come home with the least amount of post-traumatic stress, okay? So to do that, you really have to understand the culture and the etiquette of prison, as well as understanding how do you architect a very strong release plan. All of that information I provide for free on prisonprofessors.org. And if you visit that site, you can find that little chat bot there at the bottom where you could just ask any question you want to ask. You should definitely be using the profiles tab. I would encourage you to go through all these lessons here and these lessons here so that you can learn a lot. If you want to learn from my own journey, click on the founders page. You will see the influences that got me through, the way I continuously memorialize my journey. You're going to want to see how I hold myself accountable, and hopefully you will find pathways that you could use to navigate this journey ahead. That's regardless of which security level you serve your time. But there is an etiquette and a culture in every prison. Okay, in secure prisons, meaning low, medium, and high, there is always a controlled movement, meaning you can only be in one area of the prison at a time. You can't just freely move from one area, from that recreation yard, say, to the library, to the housing unit. You've got a controlled movement. So it's typically once an hour. There's like a 10-minute window, and the staff will announce over the loudspeaker open movement or controlled movement. And then you'll go through, if you're in higher security, you're going to have to go through metal detectors and so forth. If you're in a lower security, you're just going to walk from one area to the other. But you want to be very respectful of both the staff members who are working there and the other people, because it's very easy. There's a lot of tension in prison in every security level, and you want to minimize that. I used to use the analogy of saying, try to be a submarine. Okay, what is a submarine? A submarine moves through the water, under the surface. Nobody sees it. It keeps its periscope up to know what's going on around it, but it's really trying to be stealthily, non-observant in the prison, not being able to be observed. You want to be invisible while you're there in a manner, unless you're being very deliberate and being that purple cow analogy I used in an earlier video, where you're educating yourself. You're developing assets that demonstrate you as a person that's worthy of a lower level of liberty or a higher level of liberty, and worthy of a transition to home confinement. All of this should be methodical, and you should be thinking about, okay, what's going to be different in my life in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months, in 1 year? Why am I going to be a better candidate to get out? Well, that means that you've got to be respectful to staff. Okay, always address them respectfully. Don't just call them Wilson or Stevens. Officer Wilson. You can observe the conduct of other people, but try to be on your best behavior with regard to giving them respect. That means a lot, and it can go a long ways when they have discretion to avoid giving you a disciplinary infraction if you're seen as somebody who is observant and respectful. I would really encourage you to totally understand all of the rules. You can learn about all of those rules just on our website by typing into the AI system, what is the disciplinary code, and you will learn about different disciplinary codes. I have a lesson specifically devoted to disciplinary codes, which you could find in our lessons here below. You're going to want to avoid being overly familiar with staff. The staff members are not your friends, okay? And you shouldn't think of them as being your friends. They're there to do a job. And you don't want to be perceived as somebody who's trying to manipulate them, because that can backfire on you in really extraordinary ways and cause you problems. You want to remember that the staff writes classification reports. They're the ones that assess whether you're eligible for programs or eligible for halfway house and home confinement. So I would really urge you to recognize the influence they have over your life. And in a similar manner, recognize the other people with whom you are serving time. Don't touch their property, their bunk. Don't go into their private spaces, right? You want to really respect the people that are there in terms of giving them their private space, because many of them are very volatile. Not all of them are like you, doing research on what steps they can take to get the best possible outcome. Instead, they're focusing on, how can I control the TV room, or decide who's going to sit where, or what gang I'm going to run with. You don't want to be a part of that unless you're saying, hey, I want to live in prison for the rest of my life. You want to never cut in line. You want to do everything you can to minimize the possibility of having a disturbance with any other staff member or any other person serving time. Don't pry into their cases or personal business, or even get to know them, okay? Unless you've got a really good social awareness and you develop a good friendship. Still, be very respectful and avoid gossip, because gossip can lead to really challenging problems that can magnify or amplify very quickly, particularly with individuals who identify with specific groups or gangs or cliques, right? Because it's considered that if you violate if you disrespect one person who's part of a certain gang or clique, they'll consider it like you're violating the entire clique, and then you got a problem with everybody, and that's very tough. So you want to, the best way to avoid fights in prison is just be respectful. I went through 9,500 days in prison and served time in prisons of every security level and never had a single altercation with anybody else. You can do the same thing. I truly believe that, but you've got to be very disciplined and very deliberate. There's a lot of, unwritten rules or tacit rules in prisons about politics, with regard to racial groups and social order and geographical locations and where you can sit and what kind of crime you have. Your mission is to focus on you. Your mission is to recognize it will not serve your interest to make promises to other people that you don't have the power to keep, to incur debts with other people. You shouldn't gamble unless you're prepared to deal with all of the complications that come with gambling. You should not borrow anything from anybody, and just try to stay neutral. Try to avoid the type of volatile personalities because you don't want to create enemies in there. And this is really an act of self-discipline and really just using your critical thinking skills to avoid volatile areas of the prison. If you want to see how I did it, I would really encourage you to read Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Prison Sentence. And you will see how developing a reputation for honesty and reliability and resourcefulness is a great badge of honor and a great armor that keeps you from problems. And even in minimum security camps, there are volatile personalities. But minimum security camps are really like living in a supermarket. You don't know who's around you in a supermarket. So you just want to respect everybody and mind your own business. Don't get involved in what the person in the next aisle is doing or what they have done. Try to just be yourself and focused on your own business. You want to be calm and respectful and avoid escalating arguments because they can have serious ramifications that could potentially extend the length of time you serve in prison, could result in you serving time in conditions that are less than ideal. I would never volunteer to mediate disputes or getting involved as being a leader of a group. The more focused you can be on being incognito and keeping a low profile, the more you are going to accelerate the pathway to being invisible and to avoiding problems. But I know that every individual has his own personality and wants to, serve time in the way that works best for him. But if you're a curmudgeon and you want to cause problems with other people, well, prison's a place where you can find those problems. My recommendation is you focus not on the prison environment, but focus on getting home at the soonest possible time. As Stephen Covey said, keep your eyes open. Seek first to understand before you try to make everybody else understand you. And understand that many people there are going to fancy themselves as something kind of special. Let them have that. Your job is to come back with your dignity intact and with opportunities to prosper. And I offer a tremendous amount of free information on the website that you could learn from. I would encourage you to go through our free lessons, read our books, go through our videos. However you want to consume content, consume it. I highly discourage anybody from hiring or spending a ton of money on a so-called prison consultant. If you need to talk to somebody, go to the free webinars that our sponsor offers at whitecollaradvice.com/nonprofit. You could ask your questions there and the community will respond. I would also encourage you subscribe to our newsletter so I could share with you what type of work I'm doing on the advocacy front. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I have to do to try and open more mechanisms and pathways for people to earn freedom through merit. You have to do your part by staying out of disciplinary problems with the staff and avoiding confrontations with other people, and just focus on building a really powerful record that will empower you to stand out, and focus on the career you want to build when you come home. And this will keep you moving in the right direction. At least that's what I experience. So prison etiquette and culture is going to differ from a high security prison to a minimum security camp. But at the end of the day, the lessons that I just offered, or suggestions that I offered, I used in every security level and allowed me to get through 9,500 days without a single altercation and allowed me to come home successfully. I know that you can do the same. My name is Michael Santos. I'm the founder of prisonprofessors.org. And I hope that you will become an active member of our community. Be cool.